Thousands of translators who served with U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan are fearing for their lives as the American military pushes through with its withdrawal. 60 Minutes Plus correspondent Enrique Acevedo spoke with those left behind and the veterans and lawmakers working to get them and their families out of harm's way. Let's take a listen.
Monir Nouri has been waiting on a special immigrant visa for nearly a decade. He began working as a translator for U.S. troops in 2009 when he was 18 years old.
I am the most senior linguist in Afghanistan that I left behind.
He said in the years that followed, he joined U.S. Special Forces in some of the highest profile missions of the war. We offered to protect his identity during our interview, but Monir insisted on appearing on camera and spoke with us over Zoom from Kabul.
Our life is threatened every day, and because we've done a lot of missions, and our face been seen a lot, and our life is in danger.
He first applied for a special immigrant visa in 2013 and said he's been rejected 4 times. Monir was told by the State Department that his documents were fraudulent, but was not giving a specific example to appeal. We asked the State Department about that and the length of time it takes for approval, but were not giving any clarification. SIV applicants we've spoken with say that lack of transparency has been a constant source of frustration.
There is more than hundreds and hundreds more special force interpreters left behind. They have the same issues, and I don't want to be left behind.
You say, I don't want to get left behind. What can happen if you do get left behind?
If I get left behind, I'll be assassinated or I will be killed in a day.
Unlike the rapid 24-hour drawdown of nearly 3,000 troops from Afghanistan earlier this month, there will be no military airlift of Afghan interpreters. The State Department is running this operation, which is expected to take several weeks. Reaching the United States will take even longer.
So Enrique is joining us now. I don't get this. There is bipartisan support for this to protect these people who worked alongside American troops. Why is the process to get accepted still taking so long?
You're not the only one, Anne-Marie. I think a lot of people are frustrated with what's going on. It's a combination of factors, but mainly is the fact that the process was created to vet each applicant properly and not for speed. Right now, there are thousands of Afghans, interpreters, staff, their families, who are scrambling to get out of Afghanistan because of the U.S. troop withdrawal. And the system was simply not set up for that. Also, resources, money becomes an issue. It's a 14th step that takes on average about 3 years to complete this SIV, this special immigrant visa process or application. And in some cases, the cost of that for the interpreters and their families can be in the thousands of dollars, and they simply don't have that kind of money. So it's also COVID and staffing issues. The State Department oversees the process, and that has also played a role in the sort of slow-moving pace of this process.
And anyone who's ever tried to do something, I think, with the federal government, whether it has to do with immigration or the IRS or whatever, that you can get bogged down with paperwork. And if there's sort of one wrong thing on one piece of paper, it can kick your application process right back to the very beginning. You talked about how transparency is a real issue for the translators. How are you supposed to know which are the right documents or wrong documents if the State Department can't even clarify for you? What are some of the other hurdles that applicants are facing in getting their visas?
Well, as you mentioned, it's a very bureaucratic process. It was designed to vet each applicant. So it's everything from letters of employment that they have when they serve with U.S. contractors or with the U.S. military. They have to get those letters. But imagine being an interpreter living in Jalalabad and having to travel by road to Kabul to complete this process, to gather the documents, to go through the medical exams, to get your kids vaccinated, going back and forth, with the risk of running into what happened to Representative Mike Waltz's translator. His code name was Spartacus, and he was going through the special immigrant visa process. He was detained at a Taliban checkpoint. And then when they found out he had these documents and he was applying for the visa, he was unfortunately killed along with his entire family. So the hurdles have to do with logistics, with bureaucracy, and also the lack of transparency. In the case of Munir, he was told his documents were fraudulent, but when he tried to appeal, he's appealed many times, they don't say which document specifically has an issue. So, it becomes sort of a vicious cycle.
Yeah. General Petraeus and Munir, both generals, said that the war in Afghanistan is certainly not going to be over once American troops are gone. What do they expect will be happening on the ground?
Well, I think most of the people we've spoke to, including General Petraeus and some of the translators, feel that the U.S. troop withdrawal is putting an end to U.S. presence in that country, but certainly not an end to the war, with the fact that the Taliban has been regaining much of the territory it lost over the last 20 years during America's longest war. It's also been regaining power, weapons, territory, and they feel like history is going to repeat itself here, that same regime, that same group of fundamentalists is going to regain power, and the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go and seek revenge against people who helped U.S. forces during the invasion, and also reinstate the sort of repressive system that we saw pre 9/11.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, this is not a new issue. We've seen this happen before, where, there is some sort of conflict, and the U.S. military depends on locals on the ground for translation, for information, intel, and then once U.S. troops pull out, often these people are left scrambling, and often it takes kind of like the personal backing of maybe an American soldier who sort of fights for one individual to get them over. And we do these kind of heartwarming stories, but never about all the people who are left behind. How has the SIV process changed under each administration, Obama through Biden?
Well, it was created in 2009 under President Barack Obama, and then it became a little more complicated during the administration of President Donald Trump because of some of the restrictions that were added to the program, the sort of hurdles, additional hurdles that applicants had to clear before they were approved. And now I think that the Biden administration is just scrambling to try to airlift, and President Biden said this in a statement recently, try to get those who want to leave the country out of there, maybe to a safe third country. A U.S. territory like Guam has been mentioned, and it has a history of harboring some of America's allies in the past. So I think each administration has sort of face different challenges with the program, but now the Biden administration is just trying to speed up everything so they can get people out. And what you say is very important, Anne-Marie, because this might have consequences beyond the U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. If allies around the world, the next time we knock on their door and ask them to help out U.S. forces, can't trust the fact that they're going to be taken care of once U.S. soldiers leave, that might have huge implications for U.S. national security and military interests in the future.
Yep, very good point, Enrique. Enrique, thank you so much.
Have a great day.